back from you guys.
Is being recorded.
Okay.
One, that's right. One.
Don't see poll.
Okay. How do you do that? Share.
Hi, Jenna. Nice to see you back. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Very exciting news earlier this month.
Yes, about our 5 bills getting signed into law. Not bad for a year's work.
Not bad.
Well, okay, 2 years.
Strong Q4, though. Strong Q4.
Yeah.
And so for those who didn't hear the great news, on World Alzheimer's Day this year, on September 21st, Governor Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, signed all 3 of our Alzheimer's Association priority bills, as well as several others that we were in support of, with a total of 12 bills that were all in support of Alzheimer's and dementia programs and research and everything to help our loved ones who are living with the disease. So a really, really big win, and it would not have been possible without the folks on this call doing the great work.
Thank you guys so much. So I'll get started pretty soon since I feel like almost everyone answered the poll. Thank you so much. So it seems like half of you guys, this is your first training. 26% said 2 trainings, so thank you for sticking by. And then one session is 21% of the answers. Okay, thank you. Okay, so if you want to jump to the agenda, Jessica, I'll kind of get started.
Okay.
Thank you. So previously in this series, we've gone over, the importance of telling your story, what should be included in sharing your story, and how to access materials to add important details regarding legislative bills. And so in this final and last session of the training, we'll go over briefly part 1 and 2 with Nina, and then we'll go over great examples about how advocates have put together all of these skills into their advocacy efforts through legislative meetings, social media posts, and more. I'll get into that later. And then lastly, we'll let you all practice these skills in groups again, using your personal stories when interacting with the healthcare system. So I'm going to hand it over to Nina to do a quick recap of our last 2 sessions in case you guys missed it.
Hello, everyone. So I'm just going to quickly go over the first 2 sessions, and I want to just let you all know the first 2 sessions, just like this session, they were recorded. So when we send our follow-up email, we will include those recordings. So you will be able to rewatch, and if you want to consume it again, or you want to take notes the second time around, you'll be able to rewatch it. So I'm just going to do a quick recap. The first session that we did was entirely focused on effective storytelling. Now, storytelling is going to be something that you will adapt and perfect and craft as you continue to be a storyteller and an advocate with us. Our really seasoned advocates will tell you that their story from when they first started with us until now probably looks a lot different because they have really honed that skill. But we like to start with 4 main elements when we're thinking about storytelling. So the first element here is authenticity. We always remind our advocates that you are the owner of your own story. And the best way for your story to have the impact that you want it to have is for it to be authentic. You don't need to embellish. You don't need to focus on something that you think is compelling versus the thing that actually happened or the thing that actually impacted your family. So we're always looking at authentic stories being the most effective stories that you can tell. And your story might be emotional. And that's the second piece of this. We tell people it's okay for your story to be emotional. I've talked with advocates who come to me and they say, you know, I don't want to cry in this meeting, so I'm not talking about the emotional stuff. There's a really great way to use that emotion to your advantage to bring the legislators along with us as we're telling the story. And there's also a way to control it. You can add the emotional details into your story, but write it down and practice it a few times so that you know which parts of your story will get you choked up and you can take a moment to pause. It's much more effective to have an authentic and emotional, real story, even if it takes you a little bit to get through it, even if you need to pause, and even if you do shed some tears. We've had legislators and their staff be brought to tears by our advocates who are giving their raw emotion as well. The next piece here is sensory details. You know, when I think of my own experience with my grandmother and with my mother-in-law, I think of the sensory details that played into the scenarios that I'm in. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was with my mother-in-law and it was during the heat wave and we were in a restaurant that had no air conditioning and she needed help. And I remember just thinking like, I'm sweating and I'm stressed and I feel bad and I don't know what to do right now and I don't know how to calm myself down. Those details of it being 101 degrees in a restaurant with no air conditioning, they really paint that picture and create a visual for the legislators to be brought along with us in that story. And then the last piece of the key elements of storytelling is to have a clear beginning, middle, and end. Many of us are in our stories right now. I know that's true for me. Some people, their journey with their loved one who's living with the disease, maybe just started or ended many years ago, and they're still advocating. Whatever you choose as your portion of your journey, the portion of your story that you want to tell, just make sure it has a clear beginning, middle, and end. If you want to talk about a 1 month period of time on a 15-year journey, that is perfectly acceptable. You don't need to tell the whole 15-year journey. You can if you want to, but figure out a way to make it concise and really have that clear beginning, middle, and end. So, like I have kind of sprinkled in throughout here, the whole point is to bring legislators along with us on this story, and these 4 elements will allow you to do that. And next, I'm going to quickly recap the second training that we did. And the second training was focused on actually how to use our materials. So if I could get the next slide, we can go through very quickly how to find the information and use our Alzheimer's Association materials to start crafting your story. So there are 2 parts to every story that we tell. One of the parts of that story is our own story. And the second part is actually incorporating it into a piece of legislation that we're talking about in a meeting. So the Alzheimer's Association has 3 just really great resources. I mean, we have a ton, but 3 that I want to point out today that are going to be your bread and butter as you are starting this journey of being a storyteller or even polishing up your skills. So the first is our public-facing AIM website. That is allsimpact.org. This website is a really great resource. It's a hub for everything we have available for advocates. And I encourage everybody to watch the recording so you can see how to go through it, but also just peruse around the website as well. The next really great resource we have are our fact sheets. You'll see a very small screenshot of an example of one. You can find these fact sheets on the hub. You can also always ask any of the advocacy staff to send them to you. These fact sheets have really key pieces of the bills. Most of these bills are hundreds of pages long. There's absolutely no expectation for you to know all of it. So our specialists pull out maybe the top 10 facts that you should know about a bill, and they put it into these great fact sheets. And then the third piece are our campaign talking points. So we try to incorporate the bills into easy to remember and easy to digest talking points that you can incorporate into your story. So those are the three large informational resources that we have that will help you as you're becoming a better storyteller. And now I'm going to pass it off to Jessica.
Okay, well, what we're going to do is I'm going to play a video, and I'm going to have to stop sharing so that I can move to that video. But the video is one of our advocates, Cheryl Johnson, who just, I think, does a really beautiful job of pulling together in this 2-minute video her personal story and coupling it with just some simple talking points about 3 bills that we were asking Congress to pass, 2 of which have now passed and been signed by the president.
I am Cheryl Johnson, and I live in Fairfield, California. I am an Alzheimer's ambassador and an advocate. I lost my mother, the heart of our family, to this dreaded disease. The vibrant, spirited woman we knew began a 14-year journey for which none of us were prepared. And even as the disease took its toll, it could never dim the light that shone from within her. She is my why. Though she is no longer with me, her spirit continues to guide me. And I honor her memory by advocating for a future where Alzheimer's is a disease of the past. My mission is to ensure that no family endures the pain of watching a loved one fade away due to Alzheimer's or other dementia. We must continue this fight with the 3 bills that Congress needs to pass to keep us moving toward a world without Alzheimer's. The NAPA Reauthorization Act reauthorizes NAPA for 10 years and would address health disparities and expand federal agency participation. The Alzheimer's Accountability and Investment Act funds research to meet the NAPA goals. And the BOLD Reauthorization Act funds public health to meet NAPA's goals and would renew and strengthen our public health response to Alzheimer's for another 5 years. We are making progress in the fight against Alzheimer's and dementia. Thanks to NAPA, federal research funding has grown 7-fold. New treatments are now available. People are getting diagnosed earlier and receiving better care. But NAPA and the 2 other critical tools in the fight will expire next year unless Congress acts now. We must urge Congress to pass these bipartisan bills now so that we can continue the progress made over the last decade. I believe through our collective efforts, we can find a cure and create a world where Alzheimer's and other dementia are no longer a threat.
So, thank you. And let me now, I'm going to try to cue our slides back up, and I'll hand it back to Danielle. I'll just, Danielle vamp while I get the slides.
Yeah,
back.
no problem. Thank you so much. Yeah, so that's just one of the many examples that we have with our advocates doing some type of action to call for attention to the issues that relate to Alzheimer's and other related dementias. So although for a majority of the training series, we've gone through these steps to advocate in a legislative meeting setting, there's also other ways you can advocate. So there we go. The slides are up. I added some photos, all from California and California advocates on the slide. So you can advocate via social media. You can write a letter to the editor. You can record a video like Cheryl to send to Congress, like the one we just watched, or you can even participate in local community events to promote advocacy as well as resources. So I know two of the photos are, with a congressman or in, those federal offices. But in the other two, you see that they're in the community. So they're participating and volunteering at things like walk. If you guys haven't participated in any of our walks, we have hundreds of them all throughout the country. And we do have an advocacy booth as well, where we talk about what we do in advocacy, but we also hand out resources and answer questions for those that come up to the table that participate. So those are just a few ways. And then the next slide. So here are some tweets as well. For example, that call attention to representatives about our different legislative bills. You can see, that's a little screenshot from the Gather Voices website in the first picture where, Cheryl's video was submitted through. In the middle, we have one of our advocates posting a video talking on X the same way Cheryl did. And then the third one is from our Alzheimer's California X account. And it kind of gives a little snippet of someone's experience as well as a photo of them advocating in DC. So these are all great examples, but I did want to give a little bit of time for Q&A if anyone had questions about any of those ways to advocate outside of, being in a legislative setting. Does anyone have questions about that? And then I did add, if you want to go back a little bit, Jessica, if you guys wanted to follow us on Twitter or X, we put them right below there. Hi, Gay, I have your hand up.
Hi. So I just joined a few minutes ago, but I thank you for the presentation. I'm in California, in Pleasant Hill, and I was at a play a couple months ago that Laney College presented for Alzheimer's and dementia. And Andre Crutchfield was the featured artist there that Friday. And then Saturday, we saw the play Unforgettable that's going around the country to different states about a family with the grandmother who has dementia. And they're trying to deal with the grandmother and realizing that she has dementia. But they also had vendors at the table. That's how I found out about this today. And I did sign up. 3 of us signed up to walk in the upcoming walk, October the 26th in San Ramon to raise money for awareness. Background, so my mom, first of all, my great aunt ended up with dementia. She had it for about 5 years, I guess. And then my mom had it for maybe 3 years. So I was able to take care of both of them. Plus, they had a wonderful outreach program through the senior center there in Berkeley, North Berkeley Senior Center, there off of Martin Luther King. Heather is the facilitator, and not only is it Alzheimer's, dementia, people with Parkinson is for caregivers. And so I was a part of that. But it's definitely out there, and it was taboo, almost like when AIDS first came out. It's like people didn't want people to know that their loved one had it. And then when dementia and Alzheimer's first came out, it's like people didn't want people to know that their loved one had it. But more and more people that you come into contact with, somebody in their family has some type of Alzheimer's or dementia, and we know it's cognitive by having strokes or heart attacks. It can bring on memory issues. And so this is great.
This is Jessica, and I am the organizer who works in Alameda and Contra Costa counties.
Okay.
I'll be there at the walk on the 26th.
Okay.
Will you stop by the advocacy table? I would love to meet you.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, let's talk there.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad you came.
Great.
Yeah, thank you so much for signing up, Gay, and having other members participate and walk as well and fundraise. And I hope we could be a resource to you in the future. But thank you so much for sharing. maybe Janae
Oh.
or Jana. Sorry, I'll do it really
No
quick.
worries, Jana. Just real
Yeah.
quickly, that video was amazing, and I realize I've got a ways to go. Is that going to be included in the recordings that you'll be sending us?
We can
I would
absolutely.
love that. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I'll go on with the next slide. So, as I said in the beginning, we're going to have you guys practice again. So we're going to give you 20 minutes to practice sharing your stories and connecting them to your own personal experiences, which is, the need for more training for the dementia care workforce. So you've all probably had personal experiences with care providers, either in the healthcare system or for in-home care. So many of those experiences might pertain to people who weren't adequately trained in how to detect, diagnose, or care for someone with dementia. So what we'd like you to do is to try to share that experience in 3 minutes or less, like you would in a meeting with an elected official. So before we put you into groups to practice everything you've learned these past few sessions, I put some guiding questions on the screen for honing in your story. So the first one is, who are you and who do you share your story for? Describe a time when you or your person received poor care by a health provider who lacked training in dementia care. Or if that's not your experience, talk about how well-trained providers have helped you. So we'll put you in groups of 3 and you'll have 20 minutes before we pull you back into the main room. So 3 minutes each to share your experience, and then 3 minutes after each story to give each other constructive feedback. So with constructive feedback, we always want to remember to lead with the positive. So say what you liked about their story. You want to show compassion, acknowledge pain in everyone's story. A lot of these stories, as Nina said, are very emotional, and maybe fresh, maybe not. And then thirdly, ask permission before offering a suggestion for how they can make their story even more powerful. So just being in tune with, just being mindful of others and how they might feel. You can go on the next slide and we'll give you kind of directions. But there should be a pop out on your screen right now. It says join, and then we'll organize you guys in those groups. Thank you.
If it's okay.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back.
Hello. I'm having trouble with, this is Elaine Leonard. I'm having trouble with my video, so I apologize for that.
No, no worries at all. I know some people are off camera and feel more comfortable that way.
Mhm.
So no
Okay,
worries. Thank you for participating,
okay.
though.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. So we're back from our groups. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. I did want to kind of get feedback from you guys. If any of you guys want to share maybe something that really stuck with you in your groups, your own story. Anybody?
Well,
I think Trisha was going to speak for our group.
Okay, sure.
Uh-oh.
Did you want me to share the
yeah, Trish, if you
my
could,
story? Okay,
yeah, go ahead.
sure. So I was just telling our group, and I am realizing that my story is not unique, and it seems like quite a few people have a story of kind of a diagnostic odyssey, if you will, and kind of this meandering journey to figure out what's going on with our friend or family member. With my situation, my sister had early onset Alzheimer's, and she was diagnosed through a series of misdiagnoses. First, initially being diagnosed as having anxiety, although she had never had it in her lifetime, and somehow they were trying to attribute it to just everyday life. And this is was something she was diagnosed with. We didn't agree. That's not how we knew her. We knew it was something else.
Mhm.
And so, due to my career in biotech, I specifically asked for a spinal tap because she had done really poorly in an initial assessment, and asked for a spinal tap, and then the spinal tap ended up resulting in a positive diagnosis. And the way that we got to that spinal tap was through demanding through the insurance and really fighting with the doctors to say that we didn't agree with their initial diagnosis and wanted something more. And so it was not only a relief, but it was also just a pretty rude awakening for the staff at that particular medical facility that instead of arguing with patients, maybe just listen a bit more and help understand what is going on. No one knows anyone better than their own friends and family. And so for us, we saw that as a big success.
Thank you so much, Trish. That's very touching, and I'm glad that you were able to advocate for your sister. But yeah, unfortunately, we hear so many stories, and sometimes we connect, and everyone has, the same experiences within the healthcare system. There's still gaps to, close up. And it's so important that we advocate for ourselves and our loved ones. And so it's really important that representatives, especially those in power, hear, what is needed in their communities and what, those extra training or extra care needs are of community members. So thank you so much for sharing. Anyone else want to share? Paulette, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I think, oh, good. You can hear me.
Yes.
So thank you to Julie, and thank you to, I'm having a moment, Elaine, because we had a really very helpful discussion. Our stories are strong. I think for me, and I've been doing this for a while, but I think for me, one of the things is really helpful is to figure out how to let our stories that are very moving lead us to talking about the legislation without having our stories almost dismissed because we're leading up to this big thing of paying attention to the legislation. And I know that's not the intention, but I just don't see, it's harder to make the connection. And I think a little bit more work on how to speak directly to how the bold impacts me and my family and my story, that would be helpful to just kind of spend a little bit more time on that next time. Because the stories are there and we know we need to make the links, but figuring out how to do that more readily so that there's a real flow. I think that's really helpful.
Oh, definitely. Thank you so much for your feedback, Paulette. I think that's incredibly important. We do want to, focus on your stories and your experiences within the healthcare system, wherever you are in California. I do think if you want to practice more connecting your story to legislation, and let's say you participate in a meeting locally, we can definitely have you work with your staff partner in your area to make sure that you have that fluidity in your conversation and make sure that you think, you're being heard in your own experience, but also making that connection that you want to.
And I know I can do that personally. I have every bit of confidence in the association and my connection. Thank you, Jessica. but I think that seems to be over and over again. It just seems like our stories are so compelling. And then we freeze. It's like, but I don't know how to be political. I don't know how to touch this legislation. And it's not that intimidating, but it takes practice and some guidance. That's my point. So
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and we're always here to guide you guys. If it doesn't feel comfortable the first few times, it isn't for most people. It's not, natural for most of us. So I think, as you said, practice comes, and with time, you'll get better and better at making those connections and telling your story. Thank you so much. Patrick, I see your hand up. Hi, also.
Let me unmute real quick.
There you go.
I just wanted to share something with all of you real quick when you're talking about your stories. I was in a conference this past week for the master plan, and I met one of the legislatures when I was there back in May. And I asked them if I could come to their office and just sit around and learn what they do. We talked for an hour and a half. This is their policy analyst. And one of the things he said, he works in he's part of what they call the bleeding heart or the tearjerker group. And so he grew up poor and so on and so on in the story about it. What I'm trying to say is all the stories, whether they're cancer or Alzheimer's or whatever, when you guys tell your stories and they are very heartfelt, that is what motivates him to go out and fight for all of the different things he does in policy. So never underestimate your story. Yes, it is about the legislation, but getting them to listen is about your story, period. And you're all wonderful.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Gay, did you have something to say? I see your hand raised as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say real quick that I definitely would be interested in being more of an advocate to get it out there and to let people know, because how else are they going to know unless we bring our stories? And all our stories are probably pretty similar, you know, in regards to trying to take care of our loved ones as best we can. And the powers that be, federal and state and local, need to be aware of it because it's not going away. And some of the doctors have very good side beds manner, and some of the doctors don't. And I ran into one that didn't, and it was like, okay, we need to switch doctors. But most definitely interested in getting involved. Even though mom is smiling down on us, but there's so many people out there who don't know where to go or who to talk to. So absolutely.
Thank you so much, Gay. I appreciate you participating and wanting to join us. So I'll have Nina or Jessica maybe re-enter the link to sign up as a volunteer with us in the chat so you can see that. We'll have one more really quickly. Robin?
Hi, in our group, we shared a couple of things, but one of the ideas that I had for better healthcare is speaking to the big pharmaceutical companies about making medications for late stage Alzheimer's patients in different forms that they can take. It's near the end, they're not able to take medications in pill form. So I would think with all the money they have for research and everything, that they could make a patch or an injection or something in liquid form so that it would be easier on them to take their medications and not to just not give them what they need.
Okay,
They're
yeah.
at home.
Sure, yeah. There's still, I know it's very frustrating not getting many treatments besides for the symptoms alone in later stages of the disease. So
But
hopefully we
for
see,
anything, if they have
yeah.
a blood pressure medication, if they have a heart medication, the regular medical stuff that's on top of the Alzheimer's needs to be medicated. If you have to have medications and you get to a point where you won't take it or you're pocketing the medication, that there be another form that they can take.
Yeah, of course. I know.
Diabetic medication if they need blood pressure.
So, you know, Robin, the issue you bring up really goes to the heart of how seriously because you and I talked about your story at the forum, and how seriously are doctors taking their duty to provide care and support for families after a diagnosis, and how much are they writing off people because the disease is incurable, and they're really focused on, if I can't cure it, I'm just going to send you, you know, home. And, you know, the classic line is, you have dementia, you have Alzheimer's, good luck, God bless. And then they send the caregiver off. So thank you for raising that. And even though in our policy, we don't go into the details of what that's in the medical guidelines, you're very much on track with the duty of care. I see Julie has her hand raised, and then we'll end, but I can stay on a bit if anybody wants to stay longer. Julie, do you want to share your story or ask a question? Oh, looks like Julie might have left the Zoom by accident.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
I just
Here we
wanted to
go.
make a quick note
Okay.
on a memantine. They actually make that in liquid form. Just so someone in case anyone is actually interested, there are a couple of Alzheimer's drugs that are in liquid form if you're seeking that out.
Right. I see. And that's what Julie wanted to share. She wrote in the chat, sometimes a pharmacist can compound a medication in another form for a patient with special needs, difficulty swallowing,
Yeah.
etc.
The other thing that I just wanted to say, this is Julie again. I had a lot of difficulty. I was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's this spring, and I had a lot of difficulty getting a peer-based support group, and had to go through multiple different organizations in order to do that. And some of those other organizations are now doing just dementia advocacy in general. And it was really hard to be a patient that was kind of treated like you have a terminal disease and it's over. And a lot of the groups that are run for and by patients with dementia in order to live their best lives and have other things going on, I still have a story, and I'm early enough that I can actually be pretty articulate with it most of the time.
Yep.
And I can also tell you the experiences of, I've been a caretaker for my parents, and now I have the disease.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've got different levels, which is why my husband and I actually did go to Sacramento right after the diagnosis, and we'll be doing stuff like that again.
Oh,
So-
thank you, Julie. Thank you for being an advocate. And there's no more powerful advocate than a person living with a diagnosis. So thank you for doing that. I'm going to hand it back to Danielle to close us out because we're at 6:30. Those of you who need to leave at 6:30, please feel free. And if people have questions or want to talk, I can stay on for another minute or two.
Okay, thank you so much. And Julie, hi. Thank you so much for participating and sharing. We always appreciate everyone's opinions and experiences. So to wrap up, thank you guys so much for participating in this series. So next steps, if you guys still want to be engaged with us, you want to volunteer in any capacity, please talk to any of the staff members so you can, again, help us table for advocacy at upcoming walks. You can join us in legislative meetings as we've been over, share your story in a personal letter, video meeting, letter to the editor, or just in general, if you have questions and you have, an assortment of things you want to be involved with, contact your policy staff member. I think we'll share the contact information on the screen as well. But thank you guys so much. And yeah, if you want to hang tight for an extra 5 to 10 minutes, we'll stay on if you guys have any more questions. Thank you so much.
And I'm so sorry, but we actually have a link we meant to share to a form. If you want to share your story with us, if you haven't done it yet, we've got a Google form you can fill out, and then the policy staffer in your area will follow up with you and help you work on how do you want to share it. So I'm going to drop that in the chat right now, and we'll send it out to everybody afterwards. How about that?
Thank you. And thank you to my advocates I see in the in the meeting still, and new ones. So thank you guys so much for joining.
Thank you and good night. I just want
Thank
to
you.
wave good night and
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you,
on the
Elaine.
19th.
Thank you.
Thank you, Oliva.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
for being here. Thank you.
Thank you for what you all do. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for joining.
So we're here if anybody has a last question or wants to say anything. Otherwise, we'll sign off.
How do I get the information? You said you would put it back up on the screen because I came on after the meeting had already started.
Which information is that?
The local advocacy
Oh,
program.
that's me. I've got your contact info and I'll follow up with you tomorrow, Gay.
Okay, perfect.
Good to talk to you. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. It's nice meeting you all. Does anyone else have a question, Jennifer?
She's on mute.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you
so
guys.
much. Thank you all.
Hey, Danielle, can you just stay on for a second? So
Yeah, sure.
I just want to talk about the email, the follow-up email. Are you going to draft that? Do you want me to draft it? And let's be sure to include the link to our tell your story form.
Yeah, sure. Do you have a draft from the previous follow-up ones already?
That's a good question. We must have one in our folder.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Either way, yeah, if you wanted to, handle that, or if you want me to, depending on, your
If
capacity.
you have time to take a first pass, that would be awesome.
Okay, sure, yeah, no problem. Thank you, Jessica, for doing the tech.
Yeah.
Great job. No notes. No notes.
All right. Thank you so much.
Of
Great work.
course. Thank
All
you.
right.
Okay.
Bye.
All right, bye.